Hey guys, this is Matt back at it in the surf garage. I showed you last night how I mixed up the epoxy and filler combination, 2-part epoxy, 1-part hardener, and then you put in the filler afterwards. I sanded it out this morning and it's real flush, feels nice, I'm happy with it. There was a few pinholes and I went back and filled those in, sanded it again. I used just a random orbital sander. It has a random orbit to it. I use it on the lowest setting and I really like using the Diablo pads. They're these red sanding pads. I think they're probably the best bang for your buck as far as sand boards go, and I use, you can use a 60 or an 80 grit to flush this out, and then I sand it by hand so it's just sure to feel smooth. I have some 4-ounce fiberglass patches here. I'm going to glass over the top of this to give it strength. This glass is like the surfboard skeleton. It really stiffens it up, and you see there's some soft spots kind of around the fill here, outside the carbon fiber. So I have a little piece I'm going to put here, and then I'm going to put a larger piece over it and then feather it all in together afterwards with a sander. I really like using 4-ounce because it blends into the surfboard really well, as opposed to using, like, let's say an 8-ounce or anything heavier. It doesn't feather in as good. You're better off using like multiple layers of 4-ounce cloth. So I have my epoxy catalyzed right here. Let's go ahead and glass it up. Just pour a little bead there. Take my squeegee. You can use a credit card too. Spread it out a bit, and I'll put my first layer on here. This is the part I want double coverage on because it's a little soft. And then I'm going to put this piece right on top of it and saturate it out. With the squeegee, and I'm working from the center of the patch out to the edges. You don't want to go like across like this. You might shift the patch, which you don't want. And you don't even need to use a squeegee. You can use your finger too if it's a smaller ding. This one's a good size for the squeegee. And I'm just spreading it out. A little bit more. You want to get it evenly saturated, but you don't want it to pool up anywhere. The strength is really in the cloth, not so much the epoxy or the resin, depending on what kind of board it is. And I'm just giving it light pressure. Make sure there's no pools anywhere of epoxy. I'm going to look down the profile of the board and just kind of get an idea. Is it evenly saturated? Is there any pools anywhere? And it looks good. and no dry spots, anything like that. Yeah, and so again, patience is the key. This will be ready to sand first thing in the morning. It's evening time here. I'm just gonna let it sit overnight. You know, putting this out into the sun or adding any extra hardener to this epoxy I mixed up here isn't gonna speed anything up. In fact, you're just gonna sabotage it. And you notice I'm not using any masking tape either. A lot of people who fix things will masking tape off everything very meticulously. And I think it comes out better without masking tape, because the excess that comes off here will help you feather this patch into the board. It makes a cleaner transition as opposed to having a tape and then cutting with a razor blade and making a hard step around the patch. And plus, as I mentioned, the epoxy isn't gonna bond to anything that isn't thoroughly roughed up. So if I get epoxy anywhere I don't want it to be, like here, I'm just gonna take a razor blade and it'll chip right off. I'm gonna leave this here. I'll show that to you next video, how easy it is to clean that off with a razor blade once it's dry. So yeah, no need for tape. I'll go show you again how I mix this epoxy. I'm using these syringes. I'm holding it like this. My thumb is like a cork at the bottom so it doesn't flow out, and I pour the epoxy into the top. I'll pour in the part A first. Try to hit like an even increment, like for example 10. I did last video for the filler. I'll shoot it out in the cup, and then I'll pour in part B to the 5 marker because it's strict 2 to 1, no more, no less, and I'll shoot that out into the cup. And from there, if you want to put in you'll mix it together, and after that, once it's all mixed, you can add your resin filler. If you got a gouge like this to fill, and you can after that even add some pigment. Let's say if this is a colored board, even if a board's like super white, some people like to add white into their fillers, like here, so it stands out a little bit more and blends in. These fillers can tend to get a little yellow if they don't have how do you say, the white pigment in them. So that can be a nice touch as well. But I'm happy with how this looks, and we'll discuss sanding tomorrow when this is dry. If you like what you're seeing, hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time. See ya.